Well, I guess I'm live. I'm Howard Barenbaum, and I'm from Cyber Times LLC, and today I'm going to talk about how to get a commercial drone license, an unmanned pilot's license, so that you can run your a business using your quadcopter drone, and you can charge people for doing videos of like real estate, flyovers, or mapping, or things that people want you to do. And if you have a drone, you can't do anything commercial with it unless you have a unmanned pilot's license. And today I'm going to talk about a really good app that you use to get this license. In order to get the license, you have to know what a pilot knows. You got to know about navigation, and you got to know about weather and temperatures and humidity and rules that pilots need to know about how close you're supposed to, well, about flying near airports and heights and things like that. And the license, you schedule it with the FAA, and it costs about $150 to take it. And it's not an easy test to take. And that's why I'm getting on YouTube to talk about it. And this is my DJI Phantom 4 drone that I've used. I've been flying it for over a year, and it can really take great videos. And if you're experienced, and you have to be experienced in flying it, you can use it for commercial purposes, but it's not easy to learn the information. And there's a lot of resources, free resources on the internet that will help you learn all these details. For example, and if you have a drone, you should know this, that you can't fly over 400 feet. But you probably didn't know that you couldn't fly at night, and you probably didn't know you couldn't fly if there was fog. And in order to get your commercial license, you have to know a lot of these details. And the FAA will, you can schedule this test and go to a special testing location, and the FAA will then give you this test, and it's a 60-question multiple choice test, but it requires a lot of knowledge. And part of the knowledge you have to know is about maps, and maps around airports and radio frequencies where the planes use to talk to the airport towers, or if there are small airports and they don't have towers, then you have to know the frequencies of the pilots when they fly into these airports. They have to know what frequencies to use to tell the other pilots in the area that they're going to be approaching. And there's a lot of other questions on this test about you're not supposed to fly if you drank some alcohol or beer or wine or something within 8 hours of having that alcohol drink, just like what a regular pilot is required to do. They can't drink any alcohol just before they're going on their flights. If they have to wait 8 hours, so there's a lot of rules. And there's rules about taking risks and decisions that make the flight safer. And there's a really good free YouTube course called Free Drone Certification Study Guide, FAA Part 107. That's the test. That's the licensing part that you have to take. They call it sUAS. It's Small Unmanned Aircraft System. And a pilot, Tony Northrop, has this course online. It's about 2 hours. He goes through every step from simple questions to the more detailed questions about how to read these maps, and acronyms of the different numbers and letters, and there's military information, military notation for numbers and letters. You have to know these things. You have to know how planes land and take off, and what direction they take off and land, For example, I didn't know this, but a plane has to take off in the wind and land in the wind, and the runways are set depending on the wind conditions. So there really is a lot of information. And this one course at his website, he also has a lot of other information study guides. But and I will put this information on my description once I get once we finish, and I put all these links up. But the test covers a lot of questions, and Tony says numbers like the age that you are required to be a certain age before you can fly these drones. You have to be 16 before you can get a commercial license. If you're under 16, you can't get a commercial license. And also, information on the test would be like, all drones have to be registered if they're 0.55 pounds or greater, or and you have to, everyone who buys a drone, whether they're going to get a commercial license or not, must register the drone with FAA if they're over about a half a pound, and it's the law. And and then you have to know all the rules, like you can't fly over 400 feet, and can't fly over people, you can't fly over cars. Some areas, like certain parks, are restricted, like national parks you can't fly in. You can't fly your drone to use for hunting, things like that. But there are some really greater details that you have to know about. You have to know the maps are called sectionals, and they're detailed maps around airports. You have to know how to read those and answer questions about those. So I'll put these links on the website, but there's an app that I bought called Prepware Remote Pilot, and it's from asatofly.com, and it's available for the PC. I think it's $34.95. It has more detail. It has more study guides in it. The iOS, Apple, or Android app is $4.99. It's very inexpensive, and it actually gives you a test with questions used by the FAA. And each time you take the test, it grades you, and then you can see what the answers are, so you can learn. But it's best to go online and read these study guides before you buy this app and take the test, and it grades you. And in order to pass the commercial license, unmanned pilot license test, you have to get at least 70% out of these 60 or 63 questions. But you probably want to get a little more. And also, the license is good for 24 months, and then you have to be retested. It's just like what a regular pilot would be required. And I'm going to show you this app, and there's two sections. In this app, it's separated by the one section is sort of a study guide, but it's really tests the different subjects. So let me see that. Let me show you the app. This app is on my iPad, and it's, as you can see that, and it's got two sections. One study, and then one section that is for testing. And I'll show you what the study guide looks like. But it's not really a study guide, but it shows you, if you pick the type of subject, like regulations or let's see, or national airspace systems and things like that. If you press one of those topics, it'll take you into a test for that topic. And the actual test part is questions about all subjects that the FAA is going to give you, and it starts, and you can see that there's the question, and you have to. I hope you can see that. there's the question, and you can pick an answer from A, B, or C, and all 60 questions are like that. Some of the questions that ask you for information about the maps, and they let you look at a map, and then you have to decide what information on the map you use. And some of the questions pertain to how a plane flies and how it could stall, and angles of flight and things like that, and weight, and center of gravity, and technical questions about planes, and you have to learn all that. And I don't think it's a really easy test, but if you take a lot of time and go through all these resources, and there's this one test, you can be graded, and then you take another test, and it'll be different questions, because these are questions that the FAA uses. Most of these questions are what you'll find on the test, but there's like 300 or 400 questions, so they're going to be different tests every time you take a sample test. And when you go into the test, you can't take anything but a calculator, and you can't even take a phone in to the testing center. So you'll only have a 4-function calculator, and because there are some math things you have to figure out about G-forces on planes when they do maneuvers or make turns or go up or down. Drones are not exactly like the planes they're talking about, but you have to know that information. So anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this short video and have some knowledge about what it would take to become a commercial drone pilot's license and get a commercial drone pilot's license. And I'll put up the resources and the links in the description on my page, and if you have any questions, email me or leave your questions on the YouTube comments. Thanks very much. Let's see. This is gonna have to shut this down. Whoops.